We are a blended family. What just is a blended family?
Is that where two people, a man and a woman from previous marriages or relationships with children, get together and they form a new cohesive unit?
Yep,
They blend.
that's what we are. We are a blended family.
That's right.
That is what today's episode is going to be about. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Lori.
I'm Joey. We are Christ Center Marriage and Family, and today we're going to be talking about blended families. So before we start, I want to read something from the Bible. And I was looking through the Bible trying to find the perfect family. You know what? I didn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no perfect family.
Nope, no
None.
one. Not a single one.
Abraham and Sarah. Nope. Jacob and Rachel.
Nope.
Nope. Adam and Eve. You know what? You know what? Adam and Eve, besides they sinned, that was bad. Their kids. The very first kids. You know what they did?
They're terrible.
One of them killed the other one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to read what I call the perfect example, and I'm laughing because you can't make this up. It's in the Bible. So I'm going to read this, and then we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to do our episode. So this is in Genesis chapter 37. So some of you who know the Bible are going to go, okay, I know what he's talking about. So here we go. When they saw him from a distance, before he came close to them, they plotted against him to put him to death. And they said to one another, "Here comes the dreamer." I just love this story. Now then, come, let us kill him and throw him into the pits. And we will say, a wild beast devoured him. Then let us see what becomes of his dreams. You know what they're talking about, right? They're talking about Joseph.
Yeah.
It's his 10 brothers. They got a baby at home. And they're all jealous of him. We'll talk about it in a minute. But Reuben, here's one that has he has a little heart. A little bit. He still did bad. Reuben heard this and rescued him out of their hands and said, "Let us not take his life." Reuben further said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him in the pit." Oh, I thought I had hope for Reuben till he said, "Throw him in the pit that is in the wilderness, but do not lay hands on him, that he might be rescued out of their hands to restore him to his father." So it came about when Joseph reached his brothers, they stripped him of Joseph as his tunic, coat of many colors, and they took him and threw him into the pit. Now the pit was empty and without any water in it. Now, it doesn't surprise me that the sons of Jacob were wicked like that, but because Jacob wasn't really the best example of a father, anyways. His name means deceiver, and he deceived his brother out of the birthright, and then he goes out to Canaan, not Canaan, and he goes out to look for a wife. And if you read earlier, a couple of chapters before this, he meets a woman named Rachel, and he kisses her. He loves Rachel. So Rachel's dad is like, I'll let you, if you work for Rachel, I'll give you her as your wife. So he works for her 7 years, and he ends up getting the other sister. He didn't want the other sister. He didn't want Leah. So he had to work another 7 years. So here's Jacob married to 2 women, and there's a big battle between the two. Who does Jacob love the most, and who's going to have the most kids? Well, I call this the beginning of a blended family in the Bible. So Jacob has 2 wives, Rachel and Leah. Leah has 6 sons, and Rachel has 0 in the beginning. So, and then Leah gives her handmaid to Jacob. Sometimes some of the stuff in the Bible, I go, did that really happen? It's wild. Leah gave her handmaid to Jacob, basically the servant woman, and her name was Zilpah, and she had 2 sons. And then Rachel don't have any babies, barren. She gave her handmaid to Jacob. Her handmaid was Bilhah, and she had 2 sons. So now we got 10 sons by one wife and two servant girls. And people want to say, boy, these people getting married and divorced. We can't condone that. Well, we love talking about Jacob and his 12 sons. Oh, Jacob and his 12 sons. And his wives. And man. Okay, anyway. So finally, Rachel has Joseph and Benjamin. And and Jacob and Jacob kind of spoils Joseph. So Joseph goes out into the field and his brothers plot against him. And so there is the perfect example of a blended family. So looking at that blended family, I don't think we did too bad.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just thought that was kind of neat. Talk about that. The blended family in the Bible. And I couldn't think of a better one. So today we're going to talk about blended family. Before we do, the normal stuff, like our video, subscribe. We need you to subscribe and get the word out so we can help you. Because if you don't like and you don't subscribe, eventually YouTube's going to say, oh, push this video to the side. So we need you to help us push the algorithm. Like, subscribe, comment. Even if you have bad comment, please comment. If you got questions, please ask us. And I promise we'll try to get back to you. Unless we have 1,000 comments. Wouldn't that be great? 1,000 comments. Wow. But comment, ask questions, and we'll try to get back to you. That's what we're here for. And tell others. You say, you know what? I just saw a video about blended families, and I know somebody that's in a blended family. Maybe they need to watch this. Okay. Anyway, so blended family, a definition. What is a blended family? So from what I found, a blended family, also known as step family, okay, is a family formed when a man and a woman bring children from previous marriages, previous relationships, and merges them into a new family unit under the bond of marriage. Blended families are formed under many different conditions and many different situations. In his book and in videos, Ron Deal, the family life blended guy, he's a great guy. He This is one of his more previous books. I'm working on it. She's read it. I'm working on it. Smart Step Family. I recommend it. If you're in a blended family, a step family,
Yep.
and you have children from previous marriages, this is the book you must read. Must read. He says in his book there's 67 step family combinations. Can you imagine that?
I can't even begin to list them.
We kind of got lucky in ours.
Yeah.
We kind of got. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I came up with a few situations. I'm not going to list 60. I don't even know how to figure it out. How you figure out 67? Anyways, what? Figured out 4 or 5. So number one, this is the most common one. A divorced man with children marries a divorced woman with children. This is where most of your blended families come together. Okay. And number two, one or more adults, a man or a woman or both, loses a spouse to death. And so this widowed spouse, either it's a man that lost his wife or a wife that lost her husband. She's left by herself with children. He's left by himself with children. And they marry somebody else. That's another situation that happens. That makes a blended family. A single man marries a single woman. Or a man marries a single woman. Look, we're not here to judge people. We've all messed up. And I think one of the biggest stipulations in life, especially with Christians are bad about judging people. You see a young woman that gets pregnant and she's got to deal with that and the man's gone. The man's gone. Mm-hmm. And some other man steps up who's not the daddy and he says, I love this woman. I want to marry her and I'm going to take on her kids. That's a blended family. It's a blended family. That happens. Next, a woman with children marries a man who does not have children. That's my situation. That's our situation. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But, or it could be a man with children marries a woman that does not have children. And those situations happen. That's a blended family. Or here's the one that it does happen. I don't know. Maybe help me with this. Older adults. They marry each other and all their kids are grown. You don't have to name anybody, but do you know of anybody like that?
I have a couple that comes to mind.
Yeah,
I'll tell you later.
maybe I do. Okay, but that happens,
Mhm.
and I've heard it's kind of two sides of the coin. Sometimes the older children are like, that's great, mama's getting married again or dad's getting married again, and sometimes they'll go, well, I just don't like the one who mom married or dad. Sometimes it's good, sometimes. Okay, now, Lori's going to talk about how blended families bring unique circumstances that other families do not face.
One dealing with custody issues from the other biological parent. So who's going to get what? Who's going to get them on the weekend? Who's going to get them? I have students that goes to dad's house one week and mom's house the next week, or whatever, just whatever arrangement
And
you end up getting.
and that's something that we would deal with the boy's dad. We would say, well, we're going to go on a vacation, so we would all change our visitations, and sometimes we'd have the boys 2 weekends in a row, and sometimes he'd have them 2 weekends in a row. But those are things you got to deal with.
Dealing with financial needs of shared children, so child support and medical bills and field trips and school pictures and all that stuff.
And sometimes one family might say, we're going to take care of the insurance, and because we have better insurance than the other family does. There's just some things you got to figure out.
Dealing with different family structures and values. So,
What are some of the things you've noticed from your kids in school?
well, you might have like one home that goes to church and the other home that doesn't. You may have one family, one home that's structured with routines and rules, and then you might have the other home that's just they just do whatever they want to, and there's no structure. Um, just things like that. Those are the two that come to mind right off the top of my head. And then dealing with multiple family traditions. So um, this was kind of hard for me because we don't have like a lot of grandparents and everybody.
My relatives are in Kentucky, and we're in
Yeah,
Arkansas, and that's 6 hours away, so we don't get to go there and see them much.
my parents passed away before I turned 30, and my grandparents were gone in my early 20s, and so it's like we did have some um, family Christmases at one of my grandparents for a few years, but we didn't have a lot of that to deal with. So, but there are some families that they have they have each side of the family has
4 sets of
yeah
grandparents
4 sets of
or
grandparents, and
more.
so there's a lot going on there.
And some people may have been. I mean, imagine a man that um, was married and he had kids. Then he got married again, had more kids, and so he's got 2 sets of kids from 2 women. Then
Hmm.
all the grandparents there. Those one of them 67 combinations.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So grandparents, holidays, our arrangement was on even years we had them on certain holidays, and odd years we had them on certain holidays. But again, we just worked out whatever worked for us during that particular year, so that really wasn't a big deal for us. It is for some, but it wasn't really a big deal for us. And then everyday family dynamic of blended family relationships. So just
Managing the chaos.
yeah,
Yep. Trying to get along.
trying to get along. Just who's going to do the discipline
Yep.
and all that stuff.
But
So,
with us, it's rather simple compared to others. Like say, if I had 3 kids of my own and she had 3 kids of her own, that's where you got to manage the everyday dynamics. You know, keep from her kids go to her kids flock to me, and that's just the way it's going to be. So that's where it gets tough. Okay. When Lori and I got married, she had 3 boys, ages 12, 6, and 3, and I didn't have any kids. So it worked for us. And so we entered the easiest form of blended family. And I say that because even though it wasn't easy, it was the easiest form, easiest combination. And I was super excited about being a dad or a stepdad to those 3 boys. 13 years into our marriage, I can testify that the reality of my life as a stepfather is not what I imagined 13 years ago. Some good, some is better than I thought, and some a little more difficult than I thought.
mhm.
So for this episode, Lori and I are going to ask each other a set of questions. We'll just go back and forth and have a dialogue. And so you can learn how we have handled our family dynamic together. And if you have any comments, just please comment or question, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. Okay, so I'll ask you, and then you can ask me. Number one, what was your concern as a single mother with 3 boys on remarriage and bringing another man into the family, father figure or whatever, another man? What was your number one concern?
I would say my biggest concern, I guess, was just us being able to mesh and get along as a family. Honestly, thinking back, I think I was pretty naive in thinking that, oh, we're just gonna get married, and everything's gonna be great, and we're just gonna be a family, and there's gonna be any problems. And um, even though I felt like Joey was gonna be a great dad and a spiritual leader, um, I still think I was comparing him to my ex and like, oh well, that guy's terrible, and so Joey's gonna be a lot better. And but the boy, boys, their dad's their dad, and so
Yeah.
that was kind of something that we had to
And that's
adjust to.
that's one thing that we both agreed on is we're never going to talk bad about their dad,
Hmm.
and I'm not going to talk bad about my ex, and we kept that away from them.
Hmm.
Um, so that was something that we just had to work on to make sure we didn't talk negative about our exes and their dad in front of them. Okay.
I think that's it for that one. I was just My main concern before we got married was that my boys were going to grow up without a dad. That was my biggest concern. So when Joey came along, it was kind of a blessing. It was a blessing that now they were going to be able to have somebody to help me show them what a man should be, and all that stuff. So
All right.
all right. So my question is, what were some of your expectations about being a stepdad going into our marriage, and did they change over time?
Well, I expected them to, look. I should have read this. Another one, Smart Stepdad. I had that book and I read like 2 chapters and I'm like, I don't need that. I got it. I got it. I'm going to be super dad. They're going to love me. We're going to have fun. We're going to go on vacations and we're going to just play basketball and sports. It's going to be great. They're just going to just jump all over me and they're great, 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 great. I'm not saying it was wrong, that far off. They did love me and they were excited, but they didn't want me being their dad at first. They liked me as Joey, but as the dad telling them what to do and what they can't do, it took a while. And that was kind of tough for me because I didn't when they first started saying no. I'm like, whoa, okay, I got to get used to this. But it changed. And now the oldest boy, he's 25. He's got a wife and kids of his own, and we have a great relationship. We talk to each other, and we never had a lot of problems. But over time, it got better. And the other boy, he's 19. The second boy, he's 19, and we gave him one of our cars, and he took over payments. So him and I have a great relationship. And the youngest boy is 16, and he's strong-willed. He's strong-willed, and I do the best I can, but we do good. We've gotten better, but we have had some struggles with him,
Hmm.
and I didn't expect any of that.
Yeah.
But we manage the best we can.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you another question. Uh, how did you feel about our marriage and having me as a stepfather for your 3 boys? So we just got married. How did you feel about that?
Well, kind of goes into the last question. I was happy that I had somebody I knew that would be a spiritual leader, and somebody that I knew would be a good father to the boys, and somebody that I knew would um, teach them how to be men and show them how to do things. And you were talking about the youngest one. He's probably the one out of all three that likes to work on stuff with you,
Yeah,
build stuff, and
good
work on the
helper,
cars,
great
and
helper.
and that's been a bonding experience for y'all.
Yeah,
And he's even when he was younger, Joey. redid the flooring of the house, and
Mm-hmm.
he helped him with that. And so,
I
and
mean,
you
yeah.
kind of had your own connection with each boy in a
Right.
different way,
Mm-hmm.
but you've done that, and so um, I guess that was my biggest thing was just you being able to show them how to be men and do life, and
Yeah.
I wanted somebody that could do that, and so I was excited about that.
All right.
All right. So, did you have any worries or concerns about being a stepdad?
Nope. Had no worries. Coming into this, I had no worries. I thought it's going to be easy. I got it. I'm going to be super dad. We're just going to bond. It's going to be great. Now I look back and I'm going, boy, I was naive. Very naive. And these are the things, like I said, these books, Smart Stepdad or Smart Stepmom. Wish I'd read that a little more. And then when I said, okay, I was way overconfident, way overconfident. And looking back, I'm thinking, okay, I was not prepared. So I had to adjust. I would adjust, and I'm doing good, and I'm doing bad. And it's a roller coaster. I'm doing good, and I'm doing bad. But I did not think it was. I was excited. Yeah, I'm going to be a dad. But it's been worth it, and we have gotten better. And as a matter of fact, we're going to adopt our youngest boy. I'm going to adopt the youngest boy, and maybe we'll talk about that some other day.
Yeah.
But so that's where we're at now. We're at the youngest boy, hard headed. We didn't get along for a while. Now I'm adopting him as
Hmm.
I'm going to be his official dad, and he's okay with that. He wants that. So wow, what a big turnaround. Okay. So now, number 3 for you. What are some struggles you have had as a mother of 3 boys in our blended family? Your struggles.
I would say my biggest struggle has been whenever there's conflict. It's hard because I always feel like I'm stuck in the middle.
Mm.
Um, because I, being the biological mother, I always felt like I needed to be on the boy's side. But then, he would be upset with me. But then if I felt like if I took his side, then the boys would be upset with me. So I felt like no matter what I did, I was no somebody's gonna be mad at me, and I was not gonna come out the winner per
Mm-hmm.
se. And there was no gonna be any situation where I'm gonna come out feeling good about it. So that was probably my biggest struggle with,
Mm-hmm.
and that was before I reread the book.
And when we read these books, and several of the books say the same thing. So let's say, even if I had kids, so with her boys, what we learned is she should be the disciplinarian, and I should take a back row. And say if I had kids, I'd be the disciplinarian, and she'd take the back row. So imagine, I mean, and you may be one of those situations where your husband has kids and the wife has kids, and you're trying to deal with it. It's just crazy and chaotic. So deal with your kids, discipline your kids, and but support the other spouse. If the other spouse had to make a decision over the kids, support them, and that's something we've been learning. Okay. What else?
Um,
Other struggle.
that's the one that really comes to mind is that one. I think another struggle may have been, how do I word this? Like, I know you love the boys, and you know, I wanted them to love you, but their dad is their dad,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's kind of hard. Maybe accepting both. I don't know how to word that, but it's like I wanted them to love you,
But you didn't
and
want to. You didn't want to treat him as a negative.
yeah, and I didn't want them to.
Push him
I've
them away
always
from
told
him.
the boys, I want you to have
Yeah.
a good
Yeah. Yeah.
relationship with your real dad,
Mhm.
but I always, I want you to love Joey too. So that was kind of hard.
Right.
That's the big two that I can think of. So what have been some of your biggest struggles being a stepdad?
Well, the biggest struggle for me is I'm trying to be their dad, and they like that. It's great. It's great. It's great. And then when I said, hey, clean your room, and okay, that didn't go well, or help do something, and they say no, or um, I try to discipline them, and they just like, shh. Nope, not listening to you. And I'm like, oh, but I've learned 13 years. It took me 13 years to really learn it. And it's like it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster. And there's times when they would kind of go to her and talk about things, and I was kind of kept out of the loop. And they didn't do it on purpose. They didn't do it on purpose. And I've learned in these books that that's not always a bad thing. You know, we don't want to. You shouldn't keep secrets from the other spouse. But what I've learned in here is like if I had kids of my own, with her kids and her boys, and if I had kids, we both need to have time alone with our kids. So we still say, you know what? Hey, I love her kids too, but I still love you too. And it took, and that kind of happened with them, and sometimes I just didn't recognize it. And so, uh, just sometimes the resistance, and um, they didn't come out and say it. You're not my dad, but I could tell by their actions sometimes that they were thinking that, and I had to learn how to overcome that. And had we had read these books 13 years ago, that would have helped. So, and that's what we're here for. If you have that same issue, we're here to tell you how we've overcome it and what you can do to help to overcome that. Okay, so that's my biggest struggle. So, number 4, thinking back to when we first got married, what will you have done differently to have made our blended family relationship better? Here we go. Yep,
Read the
exactly.
books.
Read the books. Right. These books are great.
I don't know that he has a book. He has a stepmom book. What he probably needs is a biological mom book.
And he has a
How to
preparing for
preparing
the blend.
maybe that, yeah.
Yep, preparing the blend.
So something like that would have been helpful before before we got married. So we would be expecting some of the problems we didn't expect, and it's kind of like we always say, we didn't know what we didn't know,
Right.
and
We didn't know.
we might have known if we'd have read those books. We might have known, oh, this might be something that comes up, and if it does come up, we'll know how to deal with it. And so that's what I would say. Better prepare, because I think, like you said, I was just really naive, thinking we were just going to get married and everything's going to be great, and there weren't going to be any problems, and it was just we're just going to blend, and happily ever after. And even though it's been a good marriage, and I think we generally had a good relationship as a family. I
Probably
think
better than others.
yeah, probably better than some, but I still think that it could have been better if we'd have been better prepared.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
all right. So,
Back to you.
is there anything you wish you had done differently?
Read these books. I'll not stop at the second chapter of Smart Stepdad. I think uh just get more educated and not get so discouraged. To know that when they resist me, that that's normal. Because in those books, it talks about thousands and thousands of these type of families, and the kids do that. I don't think you're going to find a blended family where the stepkids think, "Yep, well, you're just like my dad, and I'm going to treat you just like my dad." It doesn't happen, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So to me, I think just be better educated, and it would help me a lot. Okay, last question for you. Um, what advice would you give? Let's say you go back before we got married. Okay, what advice um, would you give to yourself?
Well, I think it's just like what we've been talking about. Just better educate yourself about what life is going to be like as a step family, so you would anticipate the issues that might come up and be better prepared to deal with them, and maybe not be so offended or hurt, or whatever the feeling is that
Yeah,
you have.
and we had like those feelings. It happened a lot, and I'm thinking I could have gotten over a lot of things that I didn't get over. Could have easily, and moved on.
Mhm. So, you got any other thoughts or comments?
Yep, the same thing. One of the things that for these books again is um biological parents. You have to be the disciplinarian, but neither one of us knew that. And God bless her, she right away she had the attitude that you want to be the dad, be the dad.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to tell them how to act or what they shouldn't do, and you do that. And she gave me enough rope to get myself in trouble. But no, we didn't know. But and look, we didn't know. But and she should have been the main disciplinarian, and then slowly got me involved to where maybe 4 or 5 years into it, we were both equal disciplinarians. But it can't just be boom. I'm the disciplinarian.
Yeah. Well,
Day
the
one,
the book talks
disciplinarian.
about you, like me, being the disciplinarian, and you work on building a relationship.
Yeah.
And then
Yep. And I tried to do both at once,
yeah,
and it just didn't work.
yeah.
Well, it took
And
a long.
yeah, it worked. It just had a little more bumps in the road than it might have had
Yeah.
if we'd have done it the right way.
But the oldest two boys, we're smoothed out. And the oldest boy, we have a great relationship. And they're married, and he got a second baby on the way.
Mm-hmm.
Got a little baby Harper, sweet little girl. Gonna have a new baby girl. It's gonna be great.
Mm-hmm.
And he's married to a great woman, and they have a great family. They just live down the street, and he's doing great. And we talk to each other, and we got a great relationship. And our other boy Carter, he's 19, and he's going to college. And him and I just went out and bought him a new phone, and we let him take over payments on our 3-year-old car, and we have a great relationship. Took a while. There were times when I had struggled with him too, but it's great. And you just got to learn how to adjust, and get better. And we've done that. Now the youngest boy, I think we're getting there.
Mm-hmm.
And me adopting him as his official father, and he's gonna be my official son. That's gonna be big. 4 or 5 years ago, I would say that would never happen. I would not. 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, that's something that would not happen. But now it's happening. It's gonna be reality.
Yeah.
I'm gonna adopt him. He's gonna be my son. Okay. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I've said this before, but one thing when reading these books, we have seen over and over again was the suggestion to go to your church and go to your marriage ministry and this and that. We're like, we don't have no marriage ministry at our church. No marriage ministry at our church. None.
And the big church we went to.
Yeah.
The big church we went to.
And so we go to a small church now, which, there's not really a ministry, but we do feel like we have better relationships with the people we're in church with now. But I said all that to say that's why we're doing what we're doing here, because
Right.
if you don't have a marriage ministry at your church, maybe us, and we are not counselors, we are not saying we did everything perfectly, but we just feel a calling to share with people our story and what we've learned. And so maybe if you're going through the same struggle, you can say, here's what I can do to help, and read these books.
Yep. That's good. It's good. I like that. And one more thing. She pretty much wrapped it up pretty good. But I'd like to say, nobody thinks when they're younger, I want to be in a blended family. I want to have a failed marriage, or I want to be in a tragic situation, and I want to have a blended family to where I bring somebody else's kids into my family, and I bring my kids into some other woman's family, and we have just a chaotic blended family. Nobody says that. But it happens.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. It happens in Christianity. We are against divorce, but it happens. Sometimes you can't avoid it. And there are biblical grounds for divorce. One day I'm gonna do it just me. I'm just gonna do an episode on biblical divorce. And I'll try to iron it out. Maybe in the next month or so. So I'll keep you posted on that. But in churches are not really good at dealing with them. And maybe it's because they just don't know. A lot of it, there's a stigma on divorce. And if you say we're going to have a divorce and remarriage class, or we're going to have a special ministry that helps people that's been divorced and remarried deal with their situation, some people think that gives a thumbs up to divorce, which no, it doesn't. But you know what? You're going to have families that have been divorced and remarried, and they're in those blended families in your church, and you just can't ignore it. And some of these families, they may go to a church that they may keep going until they find a church that has one. So, um, If your church doesn't have one, it probably doesn't. We're here for you, and we're going to try to help you, and we're going to try to um, give you some advice. And next week, I'm going to give you some stuff that I've highlighted in these books, some things that I've learned about doing it, some statistics and numbers, and some of the things that work and don't work. So be with us next week, and we'll talk more about Step Family Ministries and some ideas we have, like small groups and having a marriage mentors and stuff like that. So that's it. So thank you for being with us, and see you next week. Like and subscribe.